Now I have a look at a lot of Best Buy crap on this channel, but Best Buy Canada's marketplace has some real gems on it. And this is another one of those ridiculous Cronenberg gaming PCs that I could not buy. But before we open up this just majestic tempered RGB box, it's time for a word from today's video sponsor that helped pay for this abomination. Today's video is sponsored by Deepcool and their new AK400 CPU cooler, which is the baby brother of the awesome AK620. The AK400 is a great looking CPU cooler that's relatively easy to mount, aside from that plate which requires medium shouting to get attached, but other than that it's pretty straightforward. The AK400 is quiet and has decent cooling performance for a budget CPU cooler, so if you're in the market to upgrade the terrible stock cooler in your system, check out the Deepcool AK47 linked in the description below. Thank you Deepcool for sponsoring today's video. Now you know that a gaming PC's not messing around when it's got an RGB power supply cover. Ooh, I can't wait to see this stylish tempered glass panel. And apparently it's a high performance gaming PC, which I feel like it kind of goes without saying, right? It's covered in RGB and tempered glass. Wow, that is some nice turtle death in here, and whoa, there's actually a whole set of peripherals with it, including, oh, this is like my favorite headset ever. Oh nice, this is actually the second one of these headsets I've gotten with a gaming pre-build, and I really like it because its bass reproduction reminds me of a really exaggerated sound effect of someone punching custard. We also got some Wi-Fi antenna, the very important RGB remote, and then a gaming mouse that looks suspiciously like a Kirkland brand Razer Death Adder, and a power cable. And then under there, we have the keyboard and the gaming PC. And the keyboard is also some RGB Hajan action. Wow, that is a lot of soft foam. I feel like even the most disgruntled DHL worker wouldn't be able to damage this PC in transit. Damn, that is some sticky ass turtle death right there. Holy crap, what the hell is this? It's like they shrink wrapped it using that machine at airports that you like cover your luggage with. Now as you can see, they've gone the age-old route of choking out the front fans on a bit of glass and then pretending to have ventilation on the side, but I guess there's nothing quite as stylish as asphyxiation. And then on the top we have the rich front I/O, which would have been pretty exciting 10 years ago. Around the back we've got a very usable rear I/O with a graphics card that has a DVI port on it, which is always exciting, and then we've got some Wi-Fi, and then finally we have a power supply that has an eco button on it that's real mushy to press. That is one of the worst buttons I've pushed in a while. And then on the side, we've got a really interesting tempered glass side panel mount. We've got this Fisher-priced little switch here that opens it, and then it's on a hinge. Can you lift it off? Yes, nice. Now the inside is where things get really R-rated. The first thing you'll notice is the lack of RAM on this side. But we'll discuss that later. First, I want to have a look at this, just RGB power supply cover, which I don't think I've seen anything that'll get you laid faster than that. Like, that is amazing. Now moving up to the CPU cooler, which actually looks pretty decent, but I'm sure the main reason it's in here is for this sexy acrylic RGB plate on it. That fan is definitely also RGB. The only thing in here that doesn't have a ridiculous amount of RGB on it is the graphics card and the motherboard. Now when it comes to the non-RGB specs of this system, this is where things get really weird, because you can see on the motherboard here, it says 4 channels of DDR4, and you can see that there's a little thingy there saying that this has an LGA 2011 socket in it. This $1,200-ish gaming PC apparently has an i7 5960X in it, for some reason. Now the 5960X was a $1,000 CPU when it was launched back in 2014. And as far as I understand, it was actually Intel's first 8-core desktop CPU, which is pretty cool. And it supports quad-channel memory. which has led to it having one of the best memory configurations I've ever seen in a gaming pre-build. This Best Buy PC has a single stick of RAM in a quad-channel motherboard, which, considering how rare quad-channel platforms are, that's not something I thought I'd ever see in the wild. I feel like there has to be a law against this kind of thing involving obscure corporal punishment. And in terms of the graphics card, they ended up pairing this 8-year-old god-tier CPU with a GTX 1650. I think it'll be really interesting to see how these two respond to each other in the performance tests. Oh, and the RAM's another thing without RGB on it, but we'll fix that later in the video. Now, in terms of the motherboard that's harboring this abomination, it looks like it's one of those X99 boards that you can quite easily buy off of AliExpress. Now, aside from the weird spec, the PC was clearly put together by somebody that hasn't recently suffered a head injury. It's pretty nicely put together in here. Actually, on that note, let's check out the back. Now, around the back, aside from the fact that the seller is clearly a Hajan shill, the cable management is actually perfectly serviceable, as you can see. On that note, I'm actually curious what this eco power supply is in here, so let's have a closer look. Ooh, it's got a Game Max in it. As far as I understand, these are like a legitimate fire hazard. I'd say a general rule of thumb with power supplies is if you can't find warranty information for it online, run for your life. But, you know, I don't even know why I'm commenting on it at this point. Invariably, someone's gonna moan in the comment section about how it's actually really good and it was handmade by Lord Gaben himself, you noob. So let's see what the comment section pros have to say. But at this point, I can't wait anymore. I have to see what this unicorn seizure bait system looks like when it's fired up. So let's go see what happens. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, silly me, I keep leaving my high-quality thermos flask lying around with a very accurate descriptor of me on it. Damn! Although, I feel like it's not quite as RGB as it could be. We're definitely gonna have to fix that later in the video. Wow, this is a surprisingly tetanus-free Windows 11 install. All they did was add some GeForce experience. Whoa, we actually got a 5960X, which is pretty cool. Wait, that's a single 16 gig stick? What the hell? Couldn't they at least have made a dual channel? Like, come on. But on that note, let's see how the system performs, and then we'll fix the RAM configuration, see what that does, and add some more RGB and all that good stuff. Okay, so this is running at 1080p high settings, and it's a very respectable result. You can see that the GPU utilization is not doing super well, and interestingly, the CPU is actually only running at 3.3 gigahertz, which I think the combination of that quite low core clock and the just pretty ridiculous memory configuration in here is not gonna lead to the greatest gaming experience on this Rainbow Vomit system. But at least the temperatures are really good, right? That's always nice. Wait, actually, with these non-chemical furnace temperatures, let's see what kind of overclocking options we have with this AliExpress motherboard. Oh, interesting. This motherboard has overclocking feature, which we'll definitely play around with a bit later, considering that this is an X variant CPU in here. Okay, so weird development. I enabled overclocking feature in the BIOS. I didn't even change any settings, I just enabled it. And now the system's refusing to boot. So let's reset the CMOS and see if that fixes it. Hey, there we go. Okay, so last time just enabling overclocking feature broke it. So let's enable it again and see if we can get it to boot. It is in fact not booting. So overclocking feature apparently is a no-go on this motherboard, which is a real shame. I was really hoping that I could do some overclocking feature on this motherboard. Anyway, on that disappointing note, let's check out a more demanding game. At 1080p medium settings, we have a respectable Battlefield 5 gaming experience, with a frame rate solidly above 60 frames per second, and the graphics card's not having to loiter around waiting for the CPU. Although, before we see what adding more RAM does, let's see how Cyberpunk runs. This is way better than I was expecting. It's very playable and it looks pretty good as well. Good job, little 1650. This is really not that bad. Now, it doesn't feel that great, but it is Cyberpunk, which handles like a drunk Zimmer frame on the best of days. Wait, what the hell? This is half of a 32 gig RAM kit. Now I'm gonna replace that single stick that was abandoned by its partner for some reason with two 16 gig kits. So we're gonna have 32 gigs in total with 4 sticks. And this RAM is RGB as opposed to the non-RGB gutter trash that was in here before. Oh nice, that looks way more badass. So let's fire it up and see what that looks like. Oh yeah, that looks way better. And actually, I just remembered, I have a super RGB graphics card that we can throw in here as well, which we'll do after we do the performance tests for this RAM. Wow, that made much less of a difference than I was expecting. My guess here is that it's because of a combination of two things. Maybe because of the low core frequency of the CPU, it's not running into memory bandwidth limitations yet while gaming. It really is a shame that I can't get the overclocking running on this motherboard, but I do want to do a follow-up video where I classy pimp up this system, and I'll try and get another X99 motherboard for that I can overclock with. So subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss that. And then I think the other thing is that the GTX 1650 is a bottleneck. Luckily, there's something we can do about that in this video, so let's drop a fancy graphics card in here. And I think this is easily the most RGB puke graphics card I have. Ah yes, I think this will work nicely. This Asus version of the GTX 1650 has actually been pretty good. The temperatures have been great and it's been quite quiet. And you can see here that it's actually the beefier GDDR6 version of the card. Whoa, wait, this is definitely the wrong music for this PC. Maybe this is more appropriate. No way, going from a GTX 1650 to an RTX 2070 Super made literally no difference to the performance. And I guess it's because we can't overclock that CPU, so we're definitely gonna have to wait for a follow-up video to see what we can get out of that 5960X. But in the meantime, let's see a more modern game. At least Cyberpunk benefits a lot from that RTX 2070 Super, and so did Battlefield 5, but that makes complete sense. The newer games are more able to use all of those cores on the 5960X. Which brings us to the end of another journey with an RGB Space Hippo pre-build. If you enjoyed the video, consider watching another one, a suggestion will pop up in a second, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel on the way there. And until the next video, thank you for watching, bye bye.